guys? You're listening to Whip Radio. Find us on the iHeart Radio and Radio FX app. And action. What's up, everybody? You're listening to Film Maniacs here at Whip Radio. I'm your host, Emma Booth, everybody's favorite journalism and anthropology major, but separately, a lover of movies and film. If you're a frequent listener, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. We are so happy to have you. You're listening to a station called Film Maniacs, where we dive into director styles, score choices, talking generally about a variety of films that we enjoy and sometimes TV shows. So for anybody new, I typically do episodes with my co-host Ava, but this semester she's studying abroad at the beautiful Temple Rome campus, and we miss her dearly. I talked a little bit last episode about potentially bringing a special guest on the show, and today I have a very special person with me. So everybody give a very warm welcome to my good friend and fellow Temple student, Molly Magee.
Yay! Thanks, Emma. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Magee, and I'm so excited to be the guest this week on Film Maniacs. A little about me. I'm a psychology major with a minor in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. But outside of class, I'm a huge lover of movies, music, all things creative. And I've been obsessed with storytelling since I was a kid, and I've even dabbled in some writing and performing myself. But I've been a huge Film Maniacs fan for a while now, so it's a real honor to be here. I can't wait to dive into today's episode. So let's get to it.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about some Ari Aster movies. Molly is here to join me. So for those of you who don't know, Ari Aster, he's an acclaimed filmmaker, screenwriter, known for his distinctive style that blends psychological depth with unsettling horror and dark humor. And his films often explore themes of grief, trauma, family dynamics, and existential dread. So very unique, stamped. He kind of became iconic for disturbing visuals and themes, and he's celebrated for redefining modern horror by elevating it with emotional resonance and artistic ambition. I typically don't really like the horror genre. I don't know about you, Molly, but I feel like, I don't know, there's a lot, I feel like it's very quantity over quality, a lot of bad horror movies, and I feel like, just so saturated. That industry is definitely super saturated, but I love what Ari has done with the genre. I feel like he's really added that emotional resonance, and he's kind of contributed to this rise of elevated horror that we're used to in the 2020s. So you want to tell us a little bit about the movies that we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so today we're talking about two of Ari Aster's most successful films, Midsommar and Hereditary, which both have Aster's signature disturbing imagery that makes people a little uncomfortable, but also not able to look away, you know? Mm-hmm. I've been a fan of Midsommar for a while, and I would actually consider it one of my favorite movies. I just think there's so much to the movie. I've rewatched it I don't even know how many times, but I catch new things every time, so it's really fun.
Yeah, I thought we could add Hereditary to this because Molly and I were talking about what could we do with the show, because I've been wanting to have some guests on this semester, and Molly's obviously a very good friend of mine. And yeah, I mean, they love Midsommar, and Hereditary is a movie that we both watched it this week for the first time. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna get into it. But I've been wanting to watch it for a while, and I saw Midsommar over COVID. When did you see Midsommar?
I don't know. I want to say over COVID too as well. Yeah.
So yeah, as always, spoiler alerts are in play for these movies specifically. We're also going to put out a little bit of a trigger warning because there's obviously a lot of super dark themes in these movies. If you know, you know. But yeah, we're censoring as much as we can. Everything is safe, has to be safe for radio, obviously. But in order to really dive into these films, we do have to discuss themes of, and forgive me for this, but unaliving. I hate that word so much, but I can't really say anything more. Unaliving, self-unaliving, drugging, coercion of intercourse, violence, and mental illness, and more, honestly. I tried to fit as much in there in the trigger warning as I could remember, but
just be warned.
So really fun stuff.
Yeah.
Super lighthearted movies that this man makes. And we're just going to get into it. So, Molly, kick us off. Midsommar.
Okay. So to start with Midsommar, Midsommar was released in 2019. It stars Florence Pugh as Danny and Jack Reynor as Christian. There's also a great ensemble. cast. It's a folk horror film that centers on the main character, Danny, a young woman grappling with profound grief after the tragic deaths of her family. Her sister suffered with like some mental illnesses, and she, as Emma, the word using, she, just to be like sensitive, she unalived herself and their parents by filling their house with carbon monoxide. And so this definitely starts off the movie on a gruesome note. But,
no, it's so happy.
Right.
It starts out so nice. Like,
but it also, a big part of the movie is her relationship with her boyfriend Christian, which is already strained, and he's planning to break up with her before this tragedy, and his trip to Sweden planned with his friends. But he reluctantly invites Danny to join him and his friends after this tragedy with her family occurs. And so, then they go and attend this Midsummer Festival in their friend Pele's rural hometown, Harga. And then there's a couple of other outsiders that join them. They kind of become immersed in the rituals of the isolated community, and they discover that the festival's traditions are far darker and more sinister than they initially appeared.
Womp womp.
Yeah. The visitors witness... The visitors witness increasingly disturbing rituals, including violent deaths framed as acts of spiritual renewal. One by one, members of the group are killed off for various reasons for disrespecting the village's practices. Danny, still reeling from her personal losses, begins to find a sense of belonging within the group. And the film culminates in a shocking and surreal sequence where Danny, crowned as the May Queen, makes a pivotal choice that seals the fate of Christian and the others.
So that's where we get that kind of iconic ending scene that I feel like most people think of when they think of Midsommar, with Florence Pugh frowning with all of the flowers and everything on her while she's watching a building up in flames.
Mm-hmm.
First we're gonna talk about like a few different elements of the movie. So we're gonna get into the plot first. I feel like the plot was very interesting. I was really locked in the whole time.
For sure.
I definitely was like on the edge of my seat with this movie, and I feel like it's a really good sign when you're not like going on your phone during a movie. Like, I hate to say it like that, but like there's some movies where it's like I need to be on my phone right now just because I need like double stimulation. But like, yeah, you know what I mean. You guys know what I mean. And if you thought anything else, you're nasty. You're nasty.
Yeah, get your head out of the gutter.
But yeah, I was definitely, like with Hereditary, I had to pick up my phone a little bit. I'll not lie. But it's like kind of like a car crash you can't look away from. I also remember I had to stop the movie after the first scene with the elders.
Yeah, that one's, because you think, and typically when you watch movies like that, they usually, like, you expect them to cut away right before the worst part.
Right.
And then they just, like, don't cut.
Not Miss Aster, girl.
No.
Not Miss Aster, Mama.
Aster.
Mama, she shows all of it.
That diva is showing everything.
She is, literally. Each part of the movie kind of had, like, a larger meaning. Everything went together really well, and I really like how everything kind of culminated. So, you know, the couple at the beginning being, you know, they obviously have a lot of turmoil leading up to their trip. You kind of always feel like something bad is going to happen. And it's a good watch. It's a very good watch. Each character that was killed off also had like a good storyline. I feel like most of them like disrespected the Harga people practices either on purpose or on accident. And everybody had a stamped identity in a way. Like, he's the stupid one, or he's the...
Right.
Like the academic, like he wants to write a thesis about this and he's going to get too close to them, yada, yada. I really emphasized the theme of control throughout. That's like a big theme throughout this movie, that like they lose control of themselves first by taking the mushroom tea, and then the group gains its members' trust and then kind of feel each other's pain and then brainwashes new members like Danny. We try to explain this movie the best, but I'm realizing right now it's probably going to be hard to follow if you've never seen this movie. But if you've seen the movie, you get it. Yeah. What did you think?
I mean, as far as the plot goes, I just really enjoyed the way that everything is unfolded and revealed over time. I feel like it's very well done. And like I said before, I've rewatched this movie, like, I'm going to say, like, upwards of 3 times. It's between 3 and 10. Like, I really don't know. But every time I notice new details, and I really think that is, like, something that I love in a movie, is just, like, something that has so much to unpack that you can get a lot out of the first watch, but, like, there's still more to be found out on rewatches.
Some people do say that Midsommar and Ari Aster movies are one-watch movies, though, because they're so, like, disturbing that they can't. It's like, there's, like, you see on TikTok, would be like, movies that you can only watch once because they're so disturbing. And, like, Midsommar and Hereditary will always be under there. And, like, Donnie Darko and, like, some other ones like that. But, yeah. Good plot. Good soup.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, kind of going along with that pacing, I thought the pacing of this movie was really good. From the beginning arguments and then the abrupt switch to Sweden, like, he kind of does these, like, abrupt, and we'll get into that when we talk about cinematography, but, like, the abrupt, like, scene switches and, like, how everything is very, like after a conversation is done, he doesn't really like to keep things lingering, which I feel like some directors do that, where after the conversation is over, like, they'll pan out or they'll leave you on the scene for a little bit, and I kind of like how it's like, no, we're done. Next one.
Exactly.
We're here. We're in Sweden.
Yeah. And I also really enjoyed the pacing. I just like how it's kind of almost like gradual, and then it just has those big intense moments of violence and horror. I feel like it just, like, you're sitting there the whole time like, oh my gosh, when's the next shocking thing gonna happen? Especially after that first, like, cliff scene, you're kind of, like, on the edge of your seat, like you were saying before.
Yeah. With cinematography, I feel like the visuals were really well done and the color grading was really good. Like, everything was so bright and sunny all the time. I loved that part. Yeah. I love, because it's a good, like, contrast to the plot.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And I was saying, yeah, like, I love that it's shot in broad daylight with the bright colors, because it's, like, very different from anything or most things in the horror genre. Because I feel like it's, like, because it's so still disturbing, even with those, like, beautiful shots and, like, bright colors, it's like it almost makes it, like, more disturbing to me.
Yeah, I would say so too, because it's what you're seeing with your eyes, the visuals you're getting with your eyes, or everything is bright and cheery and pretty and vibrant, and then, you know, what you're actually feeling from the things that the characters are going through is something completely different, and it kind of, like, confuses your brain, and I think that's just what adds to the kind of genius of Ari Aster.
And I also think that the hallucinatory visuals in the movie were so cool. Like, everybody always, like, I remember the way that this movie was described to me for the first time was, like, it's supposed to feel like you're you're having a bad trip or something. Like,
because you're so anxious.
Because you're so anxious, like, with the characters.
That's a great way to describe it.
That's kind of, like, how all of them feel. Like, they're all on these, like, psychedelic drugs and, like, getting, you know, like, incorporated into this, like, cult, and it's, like, I don't know, I feel like it's, like, really cool, and even, like, with the CGI, like, literal swirls in the background during the movie, it, like, literally imitates the effects of the substances.
Yeah. I've never done psychedelics before, but this movie definitely did not make me want to try them.
Nope. Crossing that one
I've
off.
kind of, like, made a rule for myself, like, I'm not going to do it until my frontal lobe develops, like, until I'm, like, 25, I think.
I think I think I have enough fun with life.
Yeah, that too, where I'm, like, I'm such an anxious person that I don't really think I'd have a good experience.
I'm quirky enough as is.
I'm quirky enough is real. So yeah, we're gonna talk about acting a little bit. So obviously, Florence Pugh, our leading lady, killed it. The ending scene of her frowning in the flower crown is, like, especially so iconic, because, like, I think her frown is so funny. I don't know. I think her frown is so funny. It's, like, eerie and uncomfortable, and it's like, girl, what are you doing? Like, she just looks so stupid, but then it's also like, okay, but, like, you're kind of giving horror and scary. Right. It just embodies that vibe that Aster goes for in, like, all his movies, where you're, like, supposed to be uncomfortable because you're like, girl, what are you doing? Like, stop. It's like when your friend is making a weird face and you're like, it's like Uncanny Valley. Like, you're like, stop, please stop. So yeah, when I first saw this, I was so pleasantly surprised to see William Jackson Harper. Hello. Love William Jackson Harper. I watched him when I was a kid in Electric Company, and it's one of my all-time favorite shows. Like, it was my favorite show when I was a kid, Electric Company. And for some reason, like, nobody else was into it like I was. But also because I was a PBS kid, and, like, so many people were, like, Disney kids. And I've talked about this before, but PBS kids on top.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've seen him as Chidi in The Good Place, which has also been my favorite show as, like, a teen/adult. So it's so crazy to see actors kind of grow with you and in their career, and, like, having those kind of polar opposites. I don't know, having the polar opposite shows, like one that you watch as a kid that you enjoy, one that you watch as an adult that you enjoy with the same actor, it just means a lot. He did a pretty good job. His character wasn't too memorable, R.I.P. But yeah. Also, Will Poulter, the Eyebrow King, he is so goofy. And yeah, and then we have Archie McMadekoe. I don't know how to say his name, but plays Simon in this. But he's the same guy that plays Farley in Saltburn, which I didn't really notice until now. So
I didn't even clock that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I also loved this performance from Florence Pugh. She's if you know me, you know that she's one of my biggest celebrity crushes too. But she just really shows crazy emotional range, and I feel like she captures the complexity of grief. And you know, her performance feels very authentic to me, which I think is really important because, like, this is such a crazy concept. I feel like getting, like, you know, like, falling into this cult and, like, all these things that are happening. It's like, if you can make that believable, like, you're a really good actor. And then I also really like Jack Raynor's performance as Christian. I was already familiar with him because of his performance in Sing Street, which I highly recommend if you love a coming-of-age film and 80s nostalgia. But in Midsommar, I think his portrayal of a selfish, unempathetic partner really adds to the depth of the relationship dynamic and once again makes this crazy story believable.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the actors were really good. I think it just shows a lot if you're able to kind of make everybody feel very and it's a culture shock in a way because they're, like, in Sweden, but then also, like, a culture shock because this is a cult with very interesting practices, and you don't obviously, like, you want to be respectful and stuff, but then you're like, wait, something is afoot.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing in this movie. It's kind of hard to list all of them, but the themes and storylines play into each other really well. You know, Danny's emotions and feelings were, like, invalidated in her relationship, and then she felt appreciated and validated by the Harga, and that's why she kind of joined in with them. And it was, like, what she lacked in her relationship that she found in these people that was, you know, the pull factor. And they used a lot of real, I do think they used a lot of real, like, Nordic lettering and murals and paintings and, like, religious themes to kind of build up the concept of the Harga, even though it's definitely, like, obviously super exaggerated, and I hope there aren't real cultures like that somewhere, just because death is sad. Obviously, respect everybody, but don't be killing people.
Right.
That's where I draw the line.
That is where, yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, hot take, but
guys.
I think I kind of draw the line at murder. I mean, unaliving. Sorry. So one of my favorite elements of this movie that I was really able to notice when I rewatched it was I don't know if you've seen the movie. I don't know if you even remember this, but the mural shown at the beginning. It's just like an intricate mural shown in the beginning of the movie that symbolically lays out the story's general trajectory before it even begins. But there's just, like, really cool things like the depictions of her. Well, not like that's cool, but like there's just, like, cool elements of it where it's like it shows, like, her parents and sisters, like, unaliving. Several Harga rituals, and it also, like, foreshadows what will happen to each of the characters, and it, like, the sun in it is smiling, like, just how Florence does at the very end of the movie. Yeah, it kind of all ties together. And just some notable scenes really quickly. Yeah, like, the one with all of the women where they're, like, crying at the same time is just so like, you know, she's really being integrated into the society. They're all feeling each other's pain.
Like the communal pain.
She crowed. Yeah. She cried. She crowed. And, you know, it solidified her indoctrination with them. And then obviously the ritual killing. Like, I watched this movie when I was 15. I had to literally take a break and come back. And just all the unaliving scenes. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, obviously, we would, like, one of the craziest scenes in the movie is the scene between Maya and Christian, where Christian is drugged and then coerced into some intercourse with Maya. But obviously he was not able to consent to this happening, so this could be very triggering for some viewers. But I think it was really the moment that I realized how severely committed the Harga were to the things that they felt that were important. And it's unlike any scene that I've seen in a movie before. And so I just thought it was a really interesting watch because it's so uncomfortable, and it really made me think
yeah, it makes your skin crawl, but also it's oh my god. Yeah. And you can't stop watching. So yeah, that's Midsommar. We're going to go into a little break right now, and then we're going to get into Hereditary. So I'm going to play a Foster the People song because I've loved this song since I was in middle school, and it's just lit. So I hope you enjoy. Period.
It's hard to look into your eyes, knowing it might be the last time. The spaces in between our breaths, they sing into the infinite. Sudden changes make the air uncomfortable. I'll hold you so you're not alone. When I'm quiet on the other side, know that I'm loving you. That's all I do, is keep loving you. You'll find my love, never mind, 'cause I'm here. I keep laughing to myself. I'm so in love with loving you. That's all I do, is keep loving you. Where things will change, but I'll always be the same. The silence is a lonely thing, waiting for a sound to fall. A lullaby to calm our sleep. The promise of another world. Sudden changes make the air uncomfortable. Hold me so I'm not alone, no. When I'm quiet on the other side, know that I'm loving you. That's all I do, is keep loving you. You'll find my love, never mind, 'cause I'm here. I keep laughing to myself. I'm so in love with loving you. That's all I do, is keep loving you. Where things will change, but I'll always be the same. Float into the endless night. Dust cradles our names, and all the things we ever cared for. To run again without the pain. To love you without being afraid. To fall into the flowers bloom of the other side. When I'm quiet on the other side, know that I'm loving you.
And we're back. Welcome back to Film Maniacs. We're just going to get straight into it. If you're just tuning in right now, I'm Emma, the host of Film Maniacs, and I'm here with my friend Molly, who is a guest host on the show today. We're talking about Ari Aster movies, and we're just going to get into our next movie. We just talked about Midsommar, so Hereditary? How about it? This movie, Hereditary by Ari Aster, was released June of 2018. We've got Toni Collette as Annie Graham, Alex Wolff as Peter Graham, Millie Shapiro as Charlie Graham, Gabriel Byrne as Steve Graham.
Yes.
Obviously produced by A24 and grossed over $80 million worldwide on a $10 million budget. So, cha-ching! The story follows the Graham family. We've got Annie, her husband Steve, their teenage son Peter, their young daughter Charlie, and it's kind of just showing the aftermath of the death of Annie's secretive and controlling mother, Ellen. So Annie is a miniatures artist. She struggles with these complex emotions surrounding her mother's passing. She doesn't really know how to act. The whole family doesn't know how to act. Peter especially, because they're like asking him like, what do you feel? And he's like, I don't know. I didn't really know her. And yeah. But the Charlie is like super worked up about it because they had a really close relationship. And the family begins to experience increasingly strange and terrifying events. It becomes clear that Ellen's influence over the family persists beyond death. So Charlie, the young daughter, she's acting weird. She's kind of weird, whatever, And then a tragic accident happens where she dies. She has a severe nut allergy that's triggered, sends her into anaphylactic shock, and Peter's driving her to the hospital, but she starts leaning out the window, and then Peter swerves to avoid a dead deer, and she's accidentally decapitated by the telephone pole. Oop. Oop, oop. So, Annie then befriends a support group member named Joan, who teaches her to perform a seance to communicate with Charlie's ghost. Then Peter starts to get haunted. Annie suspects that Charlie's spirit is afoot and vengeful and demonic. But they kind of uncover dark secrets about the family history. So her mother was basically involved in this cult that was dedicated to summoning a demonic entity named Payman, and had tried to do such with Charlie, but faced issues because Payman prefers a male host. So the family's tragic fate is preordained, kind of. And each member is manipulated into fulfilling the sinister plans of the cult. The film culminates in a chilling and surreal sequence where the true scope of the cult's influence is revealed and Peter is possessed and crowned as King Payman, the god of the cult that will bring good wealth. So this movie just explores themes of grief, generational trauma, mental illness, loss of control over one's destiny, and the sinister power of inherited legacies. I know that was a mouthful, but I hope you're following along with me. I'm just trying to give all the information to you guys so you can understand what we're talking about when we get into the plot and stuff. So what did you think of the plot?
So I think that the plot was a little hard to follow at times. I felt like I would kind of, like we said earlier, this was both our first watch this week. And I would kind of love to rewatch because I feel like things started clicking later on. But I feel like, I felt like I was missing some details. But I also just thought I did think that the slow unraveling of the family was well done, though. It felt natural and believable, which I feel like is, hard to do. And also like the introduction of supernatural elements, like going from a like movie that seems like it's going to be like totally realistic to like, something that has supernatural elements, I feel like is difficult. And I felt like that was well done. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely like, I feel like the plot was good, but it was also a little bit hard to follow when I was watching it. I was confused a lot about like the mom's past, and like she was saying that she didn't really want to have Peter when she had him, and then like the mom and the son have a very complicated relationship, and it culminates in this dinner scene that I'm gonna get into later. But like it's kind of, I don't know, it's like hard to tell what their dynamic really is, and I think that's kind of the point. But I don't know, I also didn't like that we were given everything when she was in the grief group. Like she just shared her whole past about how her brother had unalived himself because he had schizophrenia and said that their mom was trying to like put voices in his head, which we kind of find out later was probably true because she was probably trying to summon King Payman through the brother, but it didn't work. And yeah, I don't know. I like the twist though. I like the twist when we found out that Joan was part of the cult. That was kind of like, ooh, dang.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming. Did not see that coming. Yeah, I thought the story was going more towards like haunting. I don't know. But yeah, the pacing, y'all. The pacing in this movie was so bad. I'm sorry. I know that like this movie is like so critically acclaimed. Everybody loves it.
People love it. It just like I just couldn't get like it starts out so slow. It gets like, you know, obviously it picks up, but I literally tried watching this movie. The first time I tried watching it was like a couple years ago, and I didn't finish it because I literally couldn't get into it at the beginning.
Yeah, I have some movies that I still haven't finished that I'm like, oh, I should really finish that, but look, it'll just be like, oh, I'm too tired, it's too late, like I gotta stop it, and I'm just not that into it. Like, if it's a good movie, it'll make you stay up. That's what I'm saying. Know? That happened with Kinds of Kindness recently, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. It's the same guy who did Poor Things. Okay. And it's with Emma Rhinestones. That's a good drag name.
Oh my god.
Emma Rhinestones.
Wait, that is good.
That's my drag name. Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe is in it, and Margaret Qualley. And it's just like, I don't know. And Jesse Plemons. But yeah, this movie was kind of similar to that movie in a way where like, I mean, obviously I finished Hereditary, but I feel like it just could have been a lot shorter and had the same effect. It just took too long for the plot to get going, and nothing happened up until the last 30 minutes besides Charlie's death, which was kind of like, I remember like seeing the car scene, like I was with my roommate and we were like, oh my God. Like it was a oh my God moment. Yeah. But yeah. I thought the cinematography was really good, though. Yeah, I agree. I liked it a lot, but obviously, like, you know, I feel like Ari Aster movies, like, he's just known, he has good production. Like, he got that shit. I mean, he got that stuff down. Yeah, so there were really interesting, like, close-up shots and cuts in the movie. I kind of think about the scene where King Payman takes over Annie's body right before her husband is burned. And Toni Collette does an amazing, like, sobbing to deadpan face, and it cuts immediately after. And I really, really like that scene. Like, obviously amazing acting from Toni Collette. Like, we'll get into it. Like, why did she not? I don't think she won anything for this. She should have won, like, an Oscar or a Golden Globe or something.
Definitely, I couldn't watch the movie without her.
Yes, she really helped it get good. There were just a lot of purposeful pan shots, too, that I really liked. I love the zoom at the beginning. Like the one where they zoomed into the house and like that was Peter's room, because it kind of showed that like it made you feel like there was like outside forces looking in, and there kind of was, because there was like this cult this whole time that was controlling the family, you know, which we ultimately find out at the end. But you know, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it, like, I also, like, was thinking about that. Like, I feel like that beginning part of it being in the miniature house and then, like, zooming in to be their actual house, like, it felt like the characters were, like, you know, like pawns in a bigger plan. Yeah. It felt like they were just, like, little miniatures that were being controlled by something, and I feel like that definitely goes along with the themes of the movie. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I know we're, like, critiquing the pacing and all that, like, a lot, but I could see the argument that, like, it just kind of, it sets up, like, an unsettling atmosphere, like, in the beginning, and, like, really sets the context of it so that, like, the big parts are more impactful, but I don't know, like, I didn't really...
I know, I just felt like there could have been more build-up, and or also, it just could have been done differently at the beginning to make the build-up better, because I wasn't on a roller coaster going up. I felt like I was just sitting. Right. And then I got zipped up to the top. Right. There was no like, we're going up, climax, you know? And yeah, that's supposed to happen in movies. Like, you're supposed to feel like it's like what's gradual. It called? What's that in math when they have the big curve? Curve? Is it curve? Graph? Slope? No, it's the one that, like, it looks like a big,
like a bell curve.
Roller coaster. A bell curve. Yeah, I guess a bell curve. Yeah.
Okay, I don't. Yeah.
It's a bell curve. Whatever. I'm trying to make a good analogy, but it's not.
I feel like I feel like I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Maybe I missed the ball on that one. So yeah, acting. Toni Collette the woman that you are. Like, wow, fantastic job. I had seen her before, and I'm thinking of Ending Things, which is another really crazy, I would say arguably more crazy than Ari Aster movies and like psychological thriller type, because it's just so confusing. You literally have no idea what's going on and who these people are. And there's so many Easter. Oh my God, you need to watch that movie if you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix, and it has Toni Collette in it. She plays the mom, and it also has Professor Lupin from Harry Potter.
Oh, really?
I forget his real name, but yeah, like so good. She just goes in and out of emotions really naturally and well. And she's so good at like going crazy. It's like the best to describe it. Like she's so good at like making crazy like natural.
Right.
Alex Wolff was also really good. His ability to portray like this complex character, like through really complex emotions, and like the relationship with him and his mom. His acting in the dinner scene was great. This was Millie Shapiro's acting debut. The girl, pretty cool. She did her job well. But yeah, a lot of the movie kind of feels very weird because it feels like the family isn't really a family, or like they don't. It feels like they don't even know each other.
Right.
But I feel like maybe it's supposed to feel that way.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to show that there's tensions and weirdness, but they're just so disconnected from each other that I thought that it was bad acting at first, but now I can kind of see maybe it's actually incredible acting. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like if you think about it in the way that it's like where it was intentional, like I actually do feel like it's very cool because I think just the whole movie, like at least just like feels kind of just like very unsettling. Like the whole time I was just like, oh, like why are they just like acting so weird towards each other? Like
why is everybody acting weird towards me?
Yeah.
Why is everybody acting weird towards me?
And yeah, I mean, obviously Toni Collette's performance fantastic, like you said, and I think, I mean, it's similar to Midsommar in the way that it like portrays grief in like a really complex way. And I think, I mean, that scene where she discovers Charlie's death or unaliving, was just like, I mean, that struck me. I feel like she just like really sells everything that she does. Like I really, really think that she did a really great job in this movie.
She's a veteran. What was I gonna say? Her and Florence Pugh both have such a good like wail. The whales.
Yes.
WAIL whale, not WHALE.
Thank you for that
just
clarification,
in case you were
Emma.
worried.
Just in case.
So yeah, I feel like there's some interesting things about this movie. The house that they're in was actually made for the movie. The set design was really cool. The house is like in a backroads neighborhood. It's like isolated from everything else, and obviously I think it was like easier to pan the camera between rooms in the set that they built. Also, I heard a lot of the actors had PTSD after this movie. Fun fact. Actually, really, really sad fact.
Yeah, literally. But
yeah, Alex Wolff claimed to suffer some pretty intense PTSD, like the scene where his character slams his head against a desk at school. He said it was just kind of hard to turn off the tortured persona that he had, and he had a hard time opening up about this because he didn't want to sound ungrateful for being in like such a big movie. And he also faced a lot of stigma from people who found the trauma like unjustified and said like, oh, it wasn't even that bad. But yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff. Like he's really familiar looking to me. He's been in My Friend Dahmer. He was in that really bad movie Old, where the people are like dying on the beach. He's in Jumanji and A Quiet Place, and he's also in the show on Nickelodeon. He was in the show with his brother called Naked Brothers Band. But I recognize him from something that he was in when he was a kid, but I never saw Naked Brothers Band, so I don't know where it came from. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as interesting elements of the movie go, I really like I know this is like a simple thing, but I really like the title. I feel like it's like very, like, I don't know. I feel like obviously it's a nod to the recurring theme of inheritance throughout the movie. And yeah, like as we said before, like it kind of just like suggests the family's fates were sealed before they even occurred, which I think is very unsettling. And yeah, like just kind of like with the talk of like the uncle or whatever, and like his experiences with like or the brother, like
the brother of Annie.
Yeah. Who and like his experiences with also like having her like try to put like voices in his head and stuff like that. Like I feel like it's like inheriting like the struggles as well as like the like the supernatural experiences and all that.
Yeah. I would say the final scene was super, super memorable. But I was really moved by the dinner scene. A lot of people talk about the final scene, but like the dinner scene and the fight with the mom, super moving, super intense, very relatable for some people.
Yeah.
Really honing in on like the difficulties of family dynamic and how complicated it really can be. And it's not, you know, black and white. Like you're not just on one person's side or the other. Like you feel for both parties.
Right.
Where that's kind of been like pushed down through generations. And the cinematography here was really interesting because for most of the time that, if you notice, like for most of the time that Annie is yelling at her son, the camera is only on him, like showing his face and his like agape jaw and his like teary eyes and while she's outbursting.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like that scene really struck me as well. I think that that's like probably not like where I would say like I feel like favorite is like a bad word, but like definitely like the scene in the movie that I was
Most
like, oh wow, like
impactful.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, as you said, like a lot of people also talk about the ending scene. I would love to know more about the symbolism surrounding the. I don't like
decapitation.
Yeah,
you can say it.
Okay, decapitation and like the headless bodies and all of that. But I think that something that stood out to me was like Peter's expression when he was being crowned. I think that like his just like blank expression really just like conveys the idea that he's no longer Peter and is fully controlled by Paimon, which I think is just like saddening in its own way.
Yeah, like R.I.P. this family. They all died.
Literally, yeah.
Literally all of them died.
Yeah.
So. But I guess in a good way, I feel like that's the best way to do it. Like, no, I mean in the sense of like, if one of them survived, like imagine the amount of trauma that you'd have to live with.
That's true.
Like, because at the end, he kind of jumps out the window and it's said that like, it looks like he basically dies and then King Paimon like resurrects within him. So I feel like that was kind of best case scenario. Let's be real. I mean, you have to watch all of that. Like he watched like his mom cut off her head in front of him. So
yeah, I think for sure it's like the trauma. I think that's like, you know, another thing on the acting is like, how do you even portray these like experiencing these traumatic events in a way that like you cannot relate to them in any way? Like they're like no, like you know what I mean? Like it's like you kind of have to really guess on like how this would affect you.
And I always think it's a really good sign of a good actor if you can portray somebody being something else. You know what I mean? How they're portraying people who are possessed by something else. Right. I think that in itself is so hard to do because there's so many nuances and like special things that you have to think about because you're playing this character, but you're also playing this character who isn't themselves in that moment.
I agree.
So yeah, we're gonna go into another break, and then last segment we're just gonna compare and contrast and do a little Venn diagram type stuff. So see you in a bit. All right, we are back. We're just going to get into some comparisons for the last bit of the show here. So, weirdly, both of these movies have to do with cults, which honestly makes sense when you watch both of them because it's kind of maybe how it would feel like when you're being indoctrinated into a cult where you're just making friends or whatever. Everything seems normal. At least with Midsommar, like, everything seems normal so far. Like, maybe they're a little bit weird,
but you're trying to be respectful, so you're like...
Or, you know, you're just like, you know, you're just having an experience in a new culture, and you're like, okay, maybe this is how it is. Not everything's the same. And all, you know, things are different around the world. Hot take. But, yeah, like... even though there's, like, unsettling undertones, everything seems pretty normal, especially, and also in Hereditary, you know, she's like, oh, well, my mom was secretive. And she even says at the beginning, at the funeral, like, which is one of the first scenes, like, there's so many people here that I don't know, but my mom was kind of secretive, so, oh, well. Like, they don't really think about it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Ari Aster took a lot of real stories and legends from ancient folklore from both of these films because they're both kind of built off of these ancient you know, legacies and myths and stuff. Like, I think there is a real King Payman in, like,
it's
mythology
like an actual,
or whatever.
Like, I don't know what like where it's from, but like I do know that it's like an actual demon kind of thing. Yeah,
I mean, Midsommar definitely had more little things to notice, I would say. Lots of foreshadowing that Hereditary didn't really have. Yeah, I mean, this is like kind of more on the cinematography side, but I noticed that Ari Aster likes to do these abrupt cuts to the gory images. Like when we see the image of Charlie's head on the cement, it's and then the beginning shot of like Danny's dead family in Midsommar. It really is like that jump scare effect, but not like a real jump scare.
Right.
Which I just like the way he does that better. I can't even just... I guess that's the best way I can describe it in, like, specific events where I was like, oh, what do I like about these movies that's not in other horror movies? And I feel like it's just the more unique way to do horror, more unique, like, way to... I mean, it's still scary, I would say, but it's more... Instead of, like, having your heart beating fast... I mean, I guess your heart is beating fast, but instead of being, like, actually, like, scared... you're more, like, anxious.
Yeah. It's not just, like, scary to be scary. I definitely like that it's, like, not very, like, jump scary. Like, it's, like... Because I feel like that's kind of, like, a, you know, like...
It's boring. It's tired. It's like, we've done that already. Like, let's see something new.
Yeah. And I feel like things are shocking, but because of, like, the context rather than, like, just because it's, like, oh, my God, this is shocking, like, how it is in other horror movies, you know?
Yeah. I feel like the cinematography was polar opposites for both of the movies, but that's because, like, the vibes were different because, you know, the audience was supposed to get two different vibes from the two different movies. So, you know, color grading in Hereditary was super dark. Like, everything was in the dark the whole time. Like, you can barely see anybody, like, the whole movie, pretty much. It's always nighttime. It's, like, always nighttime. And, you know, in comparison to Midsommar, it's always daytime. They never really show nighttime. Or they do, but I think it's like a couple scenes.
Yeah, it's literally like 2 scenes.
You just always felt like something weird was going to happen because it was dark and sinister in Hereditary. And even if it didn't, and then Midsommar, it was like the brightness and vibrancy was to kind of distract you from everything that was happening in the background. Because that's how the characters felt. Like they were distracted by, you know, the pretty flowers and all the nice, like, you know, pasture and whatever. And they're not seeing that, you know, like Kim, people are dying. Literally. So,
yeah, I think both movies had fates for the characters that were in the works for a while. Like, you know, the cults had been praying and preparing Charlie's death in Hereditary, so that King Payman would be able to have a male host. And Joan persuaded Annie to open the door to the afterlife. Yeah, and then it's also implied in Midsommar that there's a higher power, potentially like a village deity that led Danny to the Harga that killed her family, perhaps, like all as if like there was, like she's discovering her divine purpose. And Pele also chose the group to take to his village knowing that they would probably mess up and disrespect with culture. Like they were like, I feel like, don't they like call them like the sacrifices or something like that?
Yeah, they want... Basically, like, they wanted, like, 9 sacrifices because they really liked the number 9 or something. 69. and they just like they take these outsiders in, and apparently they only do it every 90 years, or every 90 years they do this like special ritual. And I think they take in outsiders like every year, but they don't sacrifice the outsiders every year. Like these were just the lucky ones that this year,
The lucky ones, yeah.
they were going to be sacrificed. And I think in some ways I do think Pele like knew that. That's why he brought them. Or like he knew that they would mess up, and that they would
like
do things to disrespect.
meticulously chosen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the ending scene in Hereditary with Charlie's head as the angel was giving very much Midsommar, with the scene where Simon's body was made into like the blood eagle thing. So there's definitely
Go birds.
Go birds. And there's like a dissection and cult theme in both of them. Yeah.
Bofa.
And then also there's the idea in both of them where the main characters have a divine destiny and are crowned as leaders in the cult, seemingly premeditated ways of getting there as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's premeditated because everybody around them is like kind of pushing them in a way.
Right.
Like Pele, right after the death, he kind of is like happy. Like right before they go to Sweden, he's talking to Danny, and he's like, this is great because it's like rebirth for you. Like, you know, you can start all over. Like, who cares if you're an orphan? And she's like, no, but like, I actually am sad. He's like, no, just forget your troubles and come to Sweden. Like, and then she does. And honestly, like, she kind of like got better, you know, in a way. Like,
well,
she feels better on the inside.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope
she
happy.
feels better. Yeah. You know, that would be good.
I just think there's all these like high powers that are implied. Like, well, obviously Joan persuades Annie to open the door to the afterlife, so that's not really like a higher power, but it's implied in Midsommar that there's this higher power, maybe like a village deity that led Danny to the heart gun, maybe killed her family. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What's your opinion of it all?
Oh, I would say that, I mean, I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but I kind of preferred Midsommar. I still enjoyed Hereditary. I can see why people like it. It's just not really my cup of tea. I just think that there's something so unique about Midsommar compared to other horror movies that like makes it stand out. You know, like being shot in broad daylight and filled with these beautiful shots throughout the whole movie. Like, it's very interesting to watch something so horrifying while at the same time you can't help but notice like how beautiful it is. And it's just almost like you're kind of like conflicted the whole time, or it feels like your brain's being tricked into like thinking these things are like beautiful, and then it's like all of a sudden these horrifying things happen and you're like, oh my God. And yeah, I think just like Hereditary, I don't know, like I guess I just kind of felt like I was more connected to Danny in Midsommar. Like, I just felt like, you know, she, like, obviously I'm not about to, you know, do any of the things that she does, or experience those things, but I just couldn't really find any characters in Hereditary that I was, like, really, like, felt, like, connected to, I guess. And I think that just, like, is one of the reasons why I just, like, struggled to like, really enjoy it.
I agree. I think some people really resonate with Hereditary because they feel really connected to either the son or the mom or the dad in a way. But if you don't connect with any of those characters, you're kind of, like, it's harder to really, like, be impacted by the movie in the same way as like other people, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can I go into my stuff? Yeah, I will agree with Molly. I think that Midsommar was just a little bit better for me personally. I feel like the horror in Midsommar was a lot more disturbing and gory and definitely more jarring, where you're like, oh my god, like you just kind of say that, you're like, oh, like you have physical reactions or you have verbal reactions, and that all of Ari Aster's movies kind of do that, which I really, really want to see. Beau is Afraid, which is one of his newer movies.
Yeah, that was just recommended to me.
And I've heard it's really good, but I don't know where I can watch it, but I'll figure it out. Yeah, the plot in Midsommar just feels a little bit scarier because the visitors of the cult are kind of helpless because they can't go anywhere else. They have nowhere else to stay, and they're so unaware of what's to come. Hereditary was definitely chilling, but why did I say this weird? Hereditary was definitely chilling, but the buildup just wasn't as successful as I wish it was. And we talked about that before. But I really think Ari Aster does a great job in both of these movies portraying how people become trauma bonded.
Yes, it's believable.
Like, very believable. You really see, like, how it all culminates. And these communities, like, both of the cults and both of the movies have obviously ethically questionable practices, mostly through, like, dealing with grief. Because, I mean, grief is such a powerful emotion, and it can lead you to really dark and disturbing roads. But, you know, it's just like Annie's friend Joan was obviously feeling super moved by the connection with her dead son and grandson, which, I mean, we don't know if that was true or not. Maybe she was just saying that to try to get Annie to do the seance, but I feel like it was coming from somewhere. I mean, there's had to be a reason why she joined the cult or wanted to. There had to have been a pull for her to learn that kind of stuff. So I feel like it was true. And then, you know, Danny, following the death of her family as well, was really moved by the community that she felt with the Harga people.
Yeah.
And the pacing was definitely better in Midsommar. I was locked in the whole time, like I said, and confused and weirded out. And in Hereditary, I was just like waiting for stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Like, no offense. Like, the movie was just like...
Sorry to any of y'all who love Hereditary.
Yeah, sorry to this man, but Hereditary was just like... I was just waiting for the good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think the characters were better developed in Midsommar too. Thought a lot of the themes in Hereditary were well done, but I just don't resonate with it much. I think, Molly, you said this earlier, but just like not your thing.
Yeah.
Like, I can see why it's good.
I can see why someone would like it, just not for me.
I understand, like, the cultural significance. Like, I think that it's so, like, such a well done movie. Plot's well done, acting's great, cinematography's great. But for some reason, there was, like, some stuff that I just didn't like, was missing. So, yeah. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right, so we are done with all of the content for today. It's almost time to stop rolling. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode with Molly. Thank you so much, Molly, for joining.
Of course.
Maybe you'll see Molly again. Maybe we can plan to do something in the future. But I've got some other special guests coming up next week, after.
Keep tuning in.
So stay tuned. Maybe you learned something new, or maybe you're just chiming in. But you can check out my latest review on Letterboxd. My user is ebooth7. Excuse me. Also follow Film Maniacs on Instagram at filmmaniacs.whip1m and at whipradiotU on Instagram as well. As always, whipradiotU.com is your go-to location to stay up to date and check out what we're brewing up at the station. And that's all we have for today. I will catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
WHIP Philadelphia.
창이가 좋아하는 랜덤 게임. 랜덤 게임. 게임 스타트. 아파트